welcome. This is Amy Cooper from Rise, and we are here interviewing exceptional women in insurance for Women's History Month. And today I am excited to welcome Caryn Siebert. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Amy. Good to see everyone today.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your role, what you do.
A little bit about my role. Oh my God, I have so many hats. I am the Director of Carrier Engagement for Gallagher Bassett, and I work in the carrier practice side of the house, trying to generate new business, but really working as a consultant in terms of what do our carriers need to grow, to find talent, to meet the needs of their clients out there, and figure out how we can partner together to get superior outcomes.
And you have a very successful career in insurance. You've been a chief claim officer, CEO. You've been, you've kind of like made it, I guess you will. You're getting the Lifetime Achievement Award here soon. So you've had with that great career and being a woman, could you just talk, has there been any challenges that you faced as a woman in insurance, and maybe an example how you overcame them? Since it is
of course. I was going to say, and no, there's never a challenge, no challenges. No, definitely a lot of different challenges throughout my career. The first challenge was when I actually wanted to be a veterinarian and I kept passing out in class and I realized that's not happening. So anyway, I ended up becoming an attorney and I thought, this is great. This is exactly what I'd like to do. And after 4 years of continually being called up to solve other people's issues, and I decided this wasn't for me. So I went in-house and over time, I became a general counsel and chief claim officer. And the chief claim officer position was interesting. And one of the main challenges was people saying, well, you haven't been doing that for 10 years. You haven't been handling files. What makes you think you're suited, for this role? And the same technique that I used there came into play when I then got an offer to become the chief operating officer and president of a small TPA. And that is the fact that it's not about the number of years that your butt has been in the chair. It's about the experience that you bring to the table. Are you analytical? Are you able to diffuse negative situations? How do you interact with people? When that phone rings in the claims industry, 80% of the folks on the other side are yelling at you about something that you didn't do.
Yeah.
And you're trying to calm it down and put them into some better position. So one of the challenges and the way I overcame it was to talk about, here's the solutions that I can bring to the table. We can be strategic. We can be analytical. We can look at the data and make some database decisions. And then making sure that when you're in a boardroom, especially as a younger professional who's presenting for the first time, process the information, don't react right away. Think about what the person is saying and say, I'm going to take that one under advisement. Let me circle back to you. Don't feel like you have to give an instantaneous answer. And then when you are in a room and maybe it's not yourself, but it's a colleague who comes up with a suggestion, and then someone else has that same kind of suggestion, and yet because that person is not a woman, other people in the room say, oh, that's a great idea. Go ahead and make sure you support that woman who did say, here's my idea, and say, it sounds like that's what Susan said. What if the two of you guys partner with each other and get this resolved and stand up for one another? So that is definitely a challenge. And you definitely have to find other allies and supporters in the room when you run into those situations.
Yeah, and it seems like you've done a really great job with that. And again, like with a successful career, I get to ask you, if you were going to name one, what would be your superpower?
My superpower. I am a great connector. And what happens is, because of the fact that when I meet people, I'm like remembering their names, where we met, what the circumstances were. Then when I see them again, I can reconnect with where we all met. I can personalize the interaction, and then I can connect people to each other. So that really also feeds the networking. You never know when you're going to need that person or when they're going to need you. So stay in touch, use your LinkedIn channels, use your X or Twitter, whatever it's called this week, right? Make sure that when you're out there at the trade shows and you see somebody, you're in a circle of people and you're remembering by name. that has a big impact. And then they connect with you and you basically make them feel seen. And I think that's, a really important thing in this industry. My pet peeve, if that was a question, I'll make believe it is if we're having a conversation, don't be looking past me at who else is in the trade show room, because now you just make me feel like I'm not important. So stay focused on the person, connect, and keep networking.
That's excellent advice. Throughout your leadership journey, can you talk about an approach that you take towards decision making or leadership, and kind of just how you would describe your leadership style?
Sure. Well, it's interesting. I learned early on that just because you might have the title of president and CEO, it doesn't mean that you just go ahead and make the decision and run full speed ahead and tell everybody to take the hill. So what I try to do is I try to keep in mind the 3 C's. I think about the situation and whether my decision should be a consultative decision where I'm consulting others and getting their expertise and like formulating it all into, okay, based on this, here's my decision, or whether it's consensus building. Maybe I've kind of made a decision, but I'm going to try to build consensus out there, because if you just go ahead and do it, nobody's going to understand why. But if you've planted the seeds and you've gained consensus in advance, and then we go ahead and we decide together as a group, much more high likelihood of success. And then obviously the last one would be the command decision, where it's like, okay, I just got to make the call. I'm going to do it. And that's appropriate under some circumstances, but not all. So I think you need to think through that. And then I think the other thing, because you were using the word decision, is to think in 3D. So the other thing about decision making is sometimes it's based on data, and data can be really, really helpful. But sometimes you want to actually see it demonstrated and see it in action, or see how a different company implemented it, or how it worked for a different client. And then the last one is documentation, right? Actually see the documentation, understand what all this says, and then take those 3D items and then come up with your decision of what you're going to do.
That's great, and I love the 3Ds, and then also like the C's too, like how you help remember those things. Those are great learning tools. So thank you for sharing that. Do you happen to think that your leadership style is any different than your male counterparts, or you think those are pretty just key leadership tips? So
yeah, I think there are tips across the board, right? Men, women, it doesn't matter. Anybody can use those same tips. I think the key is how they're implemented, right? And if a woman is assertive, right? Sometimes a man will say, oh, she's being aggressive. It's the same. We both approach it the same way, but yet, it could be perceived differently when it's a woman doing it versus when it's a man doing it. And that's just something you have to be self-conscious about. If you put yourself in a situation, sometimes you're being out front, right? You're being forthcoming. And yet other people will say, oh, she's a little bit too bold for me. Well, wait a second, right? If your male counterpart did that, you would just say he's being forthright. So you just got to be sensitive to the different language, I think, that gets used from time to time.
yeah, definitely. So for the women who are looking to start in the insurance industry, what advice do you have for them that are just getting started, and maybe they aspire to your heights?
Oh, well, thank you. You know what? It didn't happen overnight, Amy. You're a great example, right? The importance of having a good mentor over the years, and then as you move up in your career, having a board of advisors, having someone who you can turn to when you've got, a key question, a key decision to make. We want to have careers. Careers are different than jobs, right? Jobs are easy to get. It's building that career that's tough. And so how do you do that? You do that with help. You do that with other mentors. You do that with someone who can champion you when you're not in the room and someone's working on a succession plan with all kinds of stickers showing here's ready now, here's ready in 12 months, here's ready in 18 months. How do you make sure your name is on one of those stickers? And so having that champion or that sponsor is really important. And when you do get to, the executive level, having that board of advisors who you can consult like we just talked about, decision making, get their feedback, and make a good career choice for yourself. The other thing I would say for young women is this is a fabulous industry. This industry is recession resilient. Now, we're not recession proof, but when you think about all the things that have gone on, and some of you watching this won't even have been born when 9/11 happened. Okay. But during 9/11, the insurance industry came through. Time and time again, the insurance industry comes through, whether it's property and all these hurricanes. I live in California, 12 feet of snow in Reno, Nevada, and up in Mammoth. It's unheard of. But here's the insurance industry helping out and working through these issues. So whatever area you're going into in insurance, it's a great industry to join, and definitely recession resilient.
That is excellent advice. And thank you so much, Caryn, for joining me. Thanks for being part of this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing the success from others. Feel free to write to me, or what am I supposed to say? DM me on LinkedIn. Because one of the things that I love, and I've got my own logo out there that says paying it forward and giving back. And I'd love to continue to support young professionals coming up in this industry and sharing and celebrating in your success.
Awesome. Thank you, Caryn. And for those of you watching, please reach out to Caryn if you like, or follow Rise Professionals for more interviews of exceptional women in insurance.